How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a good day. Today is a very special day because today we have Karen, the movie. This is like an hour plus long, so sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you're new, but I really do suggest that you find something to do while watching this. Maybe, I don't know, put on a video game or try to draw something, clean your room. Maybe if you're trying to go to sleep, this is definitely the video to do it too. Drop a like on the video if you haven't already, and with that being said, let's get into the movie. Today I got a crazy story time for you guys about this Karen who actually smacks a teacher over failing her son. You're not going to want to miss this, so sit back, relax, subscribe if you're new, and let's call today's subscriber who submitted this story, let's just call him James. So there was another guy in James's class who we're going to call Ben, because of course I'm going to call him Ben. But anyways, right, this other kid who we're calling Ben, all you need to know is he's in James's math class. And in James's and Ben's math class, there is a massive test. This test kind of marks the midway between the unit, or I guess midway between the year. They're officially like 50% done with the material. So there's a pretty big test to kind of see how far, like how well you've done so far. And while this test won't completely sink your grade, if you do poorly on it, you know, it's going to be a little bit of a struggle. So everyone was studying a ton. And the thing is, right, James and Ben were kind of close buds. They weren't like best friends of all time, but they were buds nonetheless. And anyways, right, so, Ben is not studying while James is studying his butt off. And one of these, one of these lunch periods, right, James and Ben sit down and they're getting lunch together, and it's about 2 or 3 days before the massive midterm in math. So James asks, like, hey, Ben, like, how's the studying going? Do you feel prepared for this test? And Ben says, man, if I'm being honest with you, I have not studied, I am not studying, and I'm not planning on studying for this test. And James kind of just looks at him kind of with this look of like kind of confusion, and he's like, dude, this test is massive, it's a major part of our grade, and I know that, like, I know you, man, like, I don't think you can just wing this, like, no offense, I know I couldn't wing this. In fact, I don't think anyone in the entire class could just wing it. And Ben was kind of like, nah, dude, like, you got to understand, I was watching this YouTube video or reading this website about, envisioning and like kind of like manifesting. And dude, instead of spending all the time studying, which I hate, I've just been spending 5 minutes a day manifesting an A on this test. And dude, I really think it's going to work. And James is like, bro, was there salt in the tap water you've been drinking? Because, like, I don't know, dude, that sounds a little strange. And James is like, bro, you got to trust me. And, like, you know what? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But if it does work, man, think about it. You and I will never have to study for tests ever again. And James is looking at Ben with this look of, bro, I swear to God, when this blows up in your face, like, I'm not going to come around to clean up the mess, man. I'm going to come around with a box of tissues and also take you away from your mom, who's going to be extremely mad. But sure enough, right, the day of the test actually happens, and, James kind of like sits down in his seat, and Ben sits a couple rows over. They had assigned seats in math class, so, they couldn't necessarily sit next to each other. And James is pretty nervous. He's coming in, he's got sweat on his brow, he's nervous for this massive test in math, and he looks over at his friend Ben. Dude, Ben is just he's not sweating at all. In fact, he has a bit of a smug smirk on his face, which James is kind of like, all right, well, Ben is either having, kind of having a mental breakdown, and this is the equivalent of, like, he just has so many bad emotions, they're coming out as positive, or bro actually thinks that this manifesting crap is going to get him an A on the test with no studying. I guess that's what he thinks, so, all right, best of luck, bro, that's all I can say. So sure enough, the teacher comes around and gives everyone their tests. And, Ben's friend, or James's friend Ben, just immediately starts going ham at it. Just starts filling in answers. Because the thing is, right, this wasn't free response. This was like individual bubble choices. The multiple choice ones where you can just fill out the bubbles. So sure enough, James's friend Ben is going ham. And James is actually doing the problems. And he hears a page turn over, and he looks at Ben, and he realizes that Ben is already done with the first page. To give a little context, there's like 24 problems on the first page, and it had been about approximately 70 seconds. So, James is starting to realize that Ben is randomly answering these questions, because James was on problem number 2. He was literally on problem number 2, and he wasn't super slow at math either. He was decent speed. So he realized that Ben, his friend, who thinks that manifesting is going to get him an A, is just spamming down answers. And sure enough, within 5 minutes, Ben goes up and is like, done. And the teacher's like, are you sure? Because this test is supposed to last like 50 minutes, the entire class period. And Ben's like, nope, I double checked all my answers. And the teacher's like, all right, well, I'm going to give you this opportunity to check them again if you'd like. I really don't see how you could have finished it in 5 minutes. And Ben is like, nope, trust me. And the teacher's like, okay, well, I'm going to give you, this is your free choice to do this. So Ben very confidently gets up and hands in his paper to the teacher. The rest of the class kind of looks up from their papers to be like, are you serious, bro? Like, that's impossible. No one could have finished it by now. I guarantee, like, how is this possible? Did this kid cheat and know the answers beforehand? And anyways, since James kind of knows what's up, he's like, oh boy, well, Ben's going to have a surprise coming to him. And James kind of puts his head down and takes about, 35, 40 minutes to finish the test. He feels pretty good because he feels like he understood every single one of the questions, and maybe he messed up a little decimal place here or there, but he feels like he got at least a B, maybe even an A in the bag. So he goes back home and he texts his friend Ben. He's like, hey man, you finished that really fast. And Ben's like, bro, it was the greatest thing ever. After all that manifesting I did, dude, I swear I went in there and the answers were just flowing to me. It was like A, B, 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 C, A, B, A, C. And so James was like, dude, like, so you just randomly guessed them? And Ben's like, dude, no, you don't understand. I was manifesting the answers and then they just came to me, dude. I got to show you how to do it after I get this A+ back. And James just texts like, haha, okay, man. He's just like, okay, sure, buddy. And anyways, right, the next day rolls around and James and Ben go into the class, and Ben once again enters the classroom very confidently, and James is a little bit more cautious because the teacher is insanely fast at grading tests, and since this is multiple choice, the teacher most definitely has had it done by today. And sure enough, the teacher had it done by today, and the thing was done. The test was ready. So anyways, right, the teacher, is like, all right, class, well, thank you all for, doing the test yesterday. I know it was a lot of studying. I promise you this week's going to be really easy. I'm going to go extra light with the homework. In fact, we have no homework today. Sorry if you hear my dog in the background. Clara's is kind of going crazy. So the male guy's here. 1 like equals 1 pet for Clara. But anyways, right, the teacher's like, you know what? No homework tonight. You guys worked really hard. There were a range of scores on the test. There were a range of scores, which immediately James is like, okay, well, I think I know where in the range Ben is. In fact, I think he's the reason that the teacher had to even say that there was a range of scores. Because the teacher followed up by saying, even though there's a range of scores, you all on average did very well. Which basically means everyone else did really well and then Ben failed. And sure enough, that was basically the case, because the teacher started handing back tests, and James got his back, and he got a B+. He's very satisfied with that. And James, not trying to make it super obvious that he was looking for Ben's, reaction to all of this, but James kind of looks over at Ben, or at least looks at his face, and he sees Ben's face start at a very confident level, kind of this very kind of like a little bit of confidence, a little bit of arrogance, a kind of look like that, and then it kind of slowly he gets a little nervous as the test is put into his hand, and then you could see Ben's facial expression go boink. Just absolutely, his face drops when he looks at the paper. James could immediately tell that he completely failed, as the entire paper, he didn't see it because James was kind of far away from Ben, but he saw all the red marks, and it looked like 90% of it was X's, so he definitely didn't pass this assignment. And, sure enough, James doesn't text Ben, but he receives a text from Ben being like, dude, I don't know how to say this. I completely failed. I thought, what did he even do? It wasn't meditation. What was it? Oh, yeah, manifesting. Oh, I thought my manifesting was going to give me the A. I don't know what happened. I truly felt the answers flowing through my body. I don't know what I'm going to tell my mom. And James is like, bro, your mom's going to figure it out one way or another, because I'm pretty sure the teacher's going to contact her anyways if you really did as poorly as you said you did. By the way, Ben said to James that he got a 27%, which... it's not the greatest score I've ever seen, I'll be honest. In the top 5 best scores ever, 27% does not fit within the top 5, believe it or not. But anyways, right, and James is like, bro, you're probably just going to want to tell your mom, get it over with. Maybe that was a bad idea, James, as you guys will see, because sure enough, the next day rolls around. It's so crazy, right? Wow, the next day happens. Shocker. But anyways, next day, James goes into class and he sees an empty seat where Ben is supposed to be sitting. In fact, James has not seen Ben all day today. He didn't see him show up. He didn't see him at lunch. He has one more class with Ben and he wasn't there. So James is looking at this empty seat and he's just really confused. And this is when it all starts to make sense. And Clara's going again. All right, buddy. I think the imaginary, the leaves are coming. No, the leaves are breaking in. Thank you, Clara. Bark the leaves away. And the squirrels are coming, Clara. No. Okay, sorry. Anyways, right. So this is when the craziest thing happens. Because remember, James is sitting in math class and his friend Ben isn't there. And that's when the door opens 5 minutes into math class, midway through the teacher teaching. And you know who shows up? Ben. But you know who also shows up? Ben's Karen mom. Real quick comment, Karen, down below if you want to harden your comment. I'm trying to take a little bit less time on my phone looking at YouTube stuff, but I will try and heart as many comments as I possibly can. And by the way, you guys probably noticed I went from posting twice a day to literally not posting for I think the last 4 to 5 days. I just really needed a break. It wasn't the greatest time, and I just couldn't make YouTube videos then. I appreciate you guys watching all my older videos, and I think honestly the only reason why this video will do okay is just because you guys are watching all my old videos, even without me asking you to. And if you want to help me get back in the algorithm, because YouTube literally sent me a message saying, hey, you're getting less views because you're posting less. We're punishing you. If you want to help me get unpunished or boost me back in a little bit, go ahead and watch a few more videos after this one from my channel, binge watch them, and comment down below if you're doing that so I can say thank you. And if I don't get back to you, just know I'm trying to take some time off looking at my comments all the time. However, I'll be super active in the first 30 minutes or so. So in general, that's when I'm most active in the comments. So make sure the notifications are turned on. Sorry, that was kind of long-winded. Back to the main part of the story where, remember, James is in math class. Ben has been gone for the entire day. Ben just failed a major assignment and he just told his mom. Ben has not been in class. And 5 minutes into the class, while the teacher is mid-teaching, the door opens up. And who is it? It's Ben. But it's not just Ben, it is also Ben's Karen mom. So sure enough, the teacher is like, oh, Ben, you're late for class. Hello, Miss Ben. We're just going to say Miss Ben or Karen. He said the actual name, but I don't know what it is. He's like, oh, hello, Miss Ben. And Miss Ben, a.k.a. the Karen, is like, I need to speak to you. And the teacher's like, well, I do have office hours, or you can communicate with the administration if you want to set up a meeting to talk about Ben's recent test score, but I'm in the middle of class, so I can't like take it now. That's a pretty reasonable statement in my opinion, but apparently the Karen did not believe this. So the Karen is like, no, we need to speak right now. And in fact, it's better that we speak in front of everybody so that everyone can understand what is going on here. And Ben is just looking at the ground. He's not trying, he's just looking down. He's not trying to make eye contact. James is like, James's eyes are piercing into like Ben's skull, trying to make eye contact just to be like, bro, what is going on? But Ben is not looking up because obviously he is mad embarrassed with this whole situation. But sure enough, right, Karen's mom is like, I know what actually happened here, and they should too. You failed my son because you dislike him, not because he did poorly on the test. And the teacher's like, excuse me, ma'am, I don't understand. Can you elaborate? And James just knows that Ben must have told some massive lie. But the Karen is like, my son tells me that he got every single answer correct, but you failed him on the test because you hate him specifically. And for that, I will not stand for such a thing. And the teacher's like, ma'am, I don't even look at the names when I'm grading the tests. This is kind of a thing that more teachers do, I figured out from all these stories I'm receiving, and my own teachers. He's like, I don't even look at the names while I'm grading the test so I can be really impartial. These were multiple choice questions. In fact, everything was multiple choice, so there was no real decision. I could have legitimately set up a software automation system to do it for me, and the results would have been exactly the same. The Karen, however, is not hearing this, and she's like, silence! And the teacher looks at her like, bro, you legit asked me, like, you asked me, like, I'm just telling you, and then you tell me to shut up when you say, like, incorrect information. But the Karen goes on to say, like, I will give you on a count to 3 to change his grade to a 100% or else. And the whole class has gone completely silent. It's not like they were talking before, but any kind of like, even the buzzing of silence has completely left the room at this point, because the Karen is threatening the teacher to change her son's failing grade from a 27% to a 100% or consequences. And the teacher's like, I will not be like threatened into doing something like this. Like, this is very inappropriate, Miss Ben. Like, I expected more from you. And Miss Ben is like, 3. And the teacher's like, once again, I'm just not 2. I'm not, this is ridiculous, Miss Ben. Please reconsider 1. And then Miss Ben says, final chance. And the teacher's like, no. In the middle of saying no, bah! The teacher goes up and whap across the forehead, smacks the teacher in the face. And James is so shocked, but in the middle of his like being shocked, he looks at Ben's face, and Ben is no longer looking at the ground out of like embarrassment, out of guilt, because he probably told his mom and his mom's going crazy. But Ben is now looking shocked. I guess Ben kind of expected his mom to be a little insane, but did not expect anything near this capacity. Like, imagine your mom is mad that you failed a test, so she smacks the teacher, bro. Like, all right, that's a whole different level. The class goes completely silent, and the teacher legitimately just sits there and is stunned. It's not like the Karen is wearing brass knuckles or is the, I don't know, the Logan Paul slap championship. It was a pretty pitiful slap, but it did make contact with the skin, and you could hear it, man. So the teacher is shocked for a second, and then is like, I'm going to have to call the front office. Immediately grabs the phone, dials the front office, says, I was just like assaulted in my classroom by a rogue parent. I need the security to come down. And the Karen's like, I'm allowed to slap you. Because you were me. She just starts babbling on about some gibberish about how she's trying to justify her actions. Basically what happened, right, was that Karen immediately after slapping this guy realized that she was in the wrong and she was probably about to be banned from school forever. So she was trying to justify her actions like, you failed my son, you came for my family, the emotional trauma that leaked to me. I was literally just doing an eye for the eye. That line in the Bible, eye for an eye. Don't you believe in Jesus? Like, she legitimately tried to, like, the reaching, bro. The reaching was so bad that any anti-cheat client, even Hypixel, would get you for that. And you can reach like 1,000 blocks and no one cares, apparently. I was playing a Bed Wars game and got slapped by some guy, hopping, neck snapping, kill or misplace. I'm like, oh my God. Anyways, right? So sure enough, the school officer comes down. And 2 of them, they come and they're like, all right, ma'am, well, we got to escort you from the building. And she's like, no, well, this is an outrage. And they're like, ma'am, we will press actual charges if you don't cooperate. And then she's like, oh, okay. So sure enough, right, Ben and his mother, because Ben did not want to go sit in the class. That'd be way too awkward. Ben and his mother were escorted out. I mean, Ben didn't face any charges because he didn't, attack his teacher or anything. But, the teacher was like, all right, class, you know what? We're going to watch a movie today. Not even an educational one. Just pick a movie, dude. And because the teacher was just not going to teach today. He had to figure out what was going on. So the class ended up watching like Wall-E or Despicable Me or something while the teacher was making 1,000 phone calls about what just happened. It was pretty funny. But apparently, right, Ben did not receive a failing grade on the test, eventually admitted to his mom that no, the teacher, he just like thought that manifesting the grade would get it. The Karen was banned from the school for life. Ben's dad literally had to come up and pick him up. Like, she wasn't even allowed on the premises. And the school, it wasn't like a legal enforcement, but the school said, we'll actually press charges if like if you break that rule that we're saying, or we see you on campus, we're legitimately pressing charges. And they had a pretty good case because they have a lot of eyewitnesses in that classroom. But sure enough, right, Ben actually studies for his next test. He gets an A on it by the final exam, and he leaves the class with a C, which was pretty good when you have a 27% on the midterm, bro. But yeah, moral of the story is don't have your Karen mom fight your teacher. It won't end well. Today we got a story of a Karen who is super entitled and just thought that she could literally do anything, but karma catches up with her and she gets arrested. You simply love to see it. Let's call today's subscriber who submitted the story. Let's call this guy Jeff. So anyways, what you got to know is Jeff works at a burger stand over the summer. So Jeff is not the one making the burgers, but he's the one taking the orders. He's the one relaying the orders. He's kind of the guy at the cash register. There's about, I think, 2 other people behind there making the burgers and shakes or whatever else they sell. And this all happened one day when Jeff unfortunately had an encounter with a Karen. So anyways, Jeff is just sitting there. It's a hot summer's day. He's, looking at the time. It's like 2 in the afternoon. It's kind of the end of lunch, of kind of like the lunch rush. He gets off at 4. He knows it's probably going to be a slow next 2 hours, but he can already feel he can already feel 4 p.m. coming around. He can go back home, I don't know, watch the new show that's coming out. I don't even know. But he was 100% wrong when he thought that it was going to be a slow next 2 hours, because all of a sudden, the Karen, boom, 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 exits her car. It's almost like dramatic theme music starts to play in his head. And actually, at the time, Jeff had no idea. He just saw another woman pull up, get out of the car, You know what? If someone is named Karen or they have a Karen haircut, don't assume that they're the worst. There's a lot of good people named Karen. There's a lot of good people with the Karen haircut. However, this individual with the Karen haircut was a Karen. You hate to see it. But anyways, this woman walks out of the car and is walking towards the stand. And Jeff is like, all right, well, got another customer, just standard affairs. And so the Karen comes up and asks for the special burger. And at the burger stand, they kind of had a burger of the day, and it was always something new, something kind of special. And, it was sometimes a little bit more experimentary. Like, it wasn't, they were trying new things. It wasn't your standard burger, cheese, patty, done, type burger. It had a little extra thing on it. Maybe it was a turkey burger. They just kind of mix it up. So Jeff even gave like a warning when someone like ordered it, being like, all right, well, we kind of like mess around every day and try something new, so it's going to be a little bit more out there. And the Karen said, that's fine. She pays for the burger and goes to sit down. And within 5 minutes or so, the burger's ready. And Jeff, says, order number 78. And, the Karen comes up, grabs the burger and sits down. Jeff honestly thinks that there will be nothing else out of this. He was so very wrong. So just for context, there's not a lot of people there, but there are a bunch of seats where you sit down and eat your food. And there's a couple of men sitting down and eating some food. There's a family. There's one guy who seems to be a business guy on his computer, also having a burger. And then there's the Karen. And Jeff is kind of just on his phone, not really paying attention because no one is up there. And then he looks up because he sees the Karen start to walk to the desk. And Jeff is thinking, all right, well, does she also want to get a water? Because she didn't get a water before. I don't really know what she wants, but, he doesn't really think anything of it. And she comes up and she's like, I did not like the burger of the day. And Jeff is like, sorry, I'm sorry that happened. I'm sorry you feel that way. Would you like something else? And she's like, no, I want a full refund. And Jeff is like, well, and he looks over and he looks at her plate. The burger's gone. She ate the whole thing. And he's like, ma'am, I can't really give refunds, especially when the food has been touched. And I don't think he could have given refunds otherwise. But she's like, what? Well, what do you mean? No, I didn't like the burger. And then Jeff kind of points out, well, ma'am, you did finish the whole thing. And she said, I had to choke down every bite. I just needed to make sure that I got the vital nutrients I need to survive. And he's thinking to himself, yeah, the vital nutrients you need to survive, aka burger and cheese and bread. Oh, yes, you're flourishing with nutrients and nutrition right now. This is the pinnacle of health standing before me. Obviously, he was getting a bit annoyed, but he's like, ma'am, I'm sorry. I can't give refunds. I don't own this stand. I don't make the rules. I just take burger orders and I just give burger orders. And she's like, no, like, this is unacceptable. Like, this is ridiculous. I didn't like the burger and you will do something about it. Real quick comment, burger down below. Yeah, some of you guys thought that Karen was going to be secret word of the day. It's not. It is burger. I'm going to try and hard as many people who comment that just to say thank you guys for letting me take a break. And if you want to help out the channel, help boost me a little bit, because I did take a 10-day vacation, and I really appreciate it. Just go ahead and sit down and binge watch like a bunch of videos if you can. It really does help the channel get back into the algorithm, and I would appreciate it. Thank you. Anyways, right, so the Karen is starting to make a scene, and the other people at the tables are looking over. That's also an important detail, because witnesses are very important, as you shall see, because the two men are looking over. And there's one thing about these men that I forgot to mention to you guys. They were police officers, and they were in uniform. They must have just been coming over to get food or something. I don't really know why. But yeah, that's an important little detail for you guys. So the Karen is like, this is ridiculous. I demand a refund. And if you don't give me a refund, I will take my refund. And at this point, Jeff's like, Ma'am, I don't understand what you're trying to say here. I don't know what you mean. I'll take the refund. But remember, ma'am, I don't run the store. This isn't my stand. I can't do anything about this personally. Why don't you understand this? And she's like, no. This is ridiculous. You're not giving me a refund because... yeah, and then she starts having like a brain meltdown at that moment. She's like, and she starts taking her big meaty fist and pounds it on the table. Give me a refund. Give it to me. Give it to me now. Give me that. And at this point, Jeff is just like, I'm not being compensated enough for this. I'm going to go on strike if she ever comes back. Oh my God. And Jeff was like, I'm so close to leaving. I'm so close to leaving. Why? And sure enough, the Karen continues to pound her fist. Is like, nah, you know what? And then she says, fine. If you're not going to give me the refund, I'm taking the refund. And the Karen does something completely ridiculous. And remember, at this point, people are starting to turn their heads. They're starting to realize that the Karen's being a little crazy at the moment. They're starting to realize this. They're starting to understand that something's going down. So remember, the police officers are now no longer in conversation, no longer really eating their burger. They're watching what's going on. And the Karen reaches over and grabs the cash register. So this was like one of those more old-fashioned cash registers that weren't like attached. It was a burger stand on the side of the road. Like, they can't have anything super high-tech. She grabs the cash register, opens it up, and grabs like two $100 bills. The thing was, right, Jeff doesn't even know why there were hundreds in the cash register. There just were. There was only two as well, and she grabs them. She's like, I'm taking my refund, and you can't do anything about it. And Jeff is just like, oh my God. She's first of all, you can't just take money because you didn't like something. A refund is almost a courtesy in a lot of places, like a lot of restaurants. If they're like, all right, we'll refund you that's almost a courtesy, right? And second of all, if you're going to refund yourself, which you can't, at least take the $4 or $5 you spent on the burger. Don't just take $200 for a refund. Well, what do you mean? Is the other $195 for like mental angst from like having to have a mediocre burger? Are you serious, dude? But anyways, right, the two police officers, they stand up and they start walking over. And they're like, all right, what's going on over here? And the Karen is like, thank you, officers, for coming. And Jeff just kind of knows that she will not be thanking them for long, man. Bro, she will not be thanking them for long, because there is no chance that they're going to side with her. Yes, actually, she has the right to steal $200 from this mom and pop establishment because she thought the burger was mediocre. Let's go, Karen. Oh, yeah. No. We all know how this is about to go. So sure enough, the Karen starts spouting off about how she didn't enjoy the meal, and he was not giving her the refund that she constitutionally deserved. And first of all, I'm pretty sure that there's no constitutional amendment or anywhere. No, there's not like the burger clause. Oh yeah, I remember in 5th grade we learned about the refund at Burger burger place clause. Oh, yeah, it's ringing a bell right now. No. And so the Karen goes on and explains to the officers that she decided to take her own refund. She admitted to stealing $200 from the cash register. And the two police officers look at Jeff and are like, is this true? And Jeff's like, yeah, actually, all of it is true. Jeff expected her to be like, he was hitting me. He was attacking me. This money in my hand? How did this get in here? He planted this in my palms. He's trying to get me arrested. But no, she just kind of just went with it. And Jeff's like, yeah, actually. And the two police officers are like, ma'am, we're going to ask you to leave the premises. And if we have any other calls of you coming back here or disturbing the peace around here, we will arrest you. And she just looks at them and is like, what? I did not get my refund. I took what was mine. And they're like, ma'am, we are going to arrest you if you do not leave right now. So the Karen slams the $200 and is like, I'm going on Facebook. I'm going on Yelp. I'm going everywhere and I'm destroying their reviews. And I'm telling all my friends and I know all the powerful people in this neighborhood. Do you know Sharon? Jeff says, no. Well, Sharon is one of the most, she's on all the women's boards and the grandmother's boards. She runs the town and this place is going down. You hear me? And Jeff is like, okay, I just work here. It's a summer job. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. The Karen's like, oh, fuck. And she waddles off and the two police officers are like, sorry, son. Hate to see this happen. And Jeff's like, yeah, it's not the greatest moment of my life, if I'm being honest. Not the greatest moment of my existence, but you know what? We keep living, man. We keep living. And Jeff watches as the Karen walks away. How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a good day because today we have one of the craziest Karen stories ever. So sit back, relax, maybe grab something to eat, grab something to drink, subscribe if you're new. We're going to call today's subscriber who submitted this story, we're going to call him Zach. So anyways, right, Zach and his mom move into a new neighborhood. And, Zach is, I don't know, he's in high school, so he's kind of an older kid. Zach isn't an adult yet, but he's kind of getting up there, right? And so anyways, right, Zach and his mom, they move into this new neighborhood and, they drive in and they're unpacking their bags and they're getting in there. And believe it or not, their neighbors are not Karens. Their neighbors are actually really cool people. And their neighbors walk over and they say, hey, we're going to help you move in. Not even do you need help moving in? They're like, hey, we know what it's like. We're going to help you move in. So they helped them move all the boxes. And they said, hey, come over for dinner tonight. So Zach and his mom were actually really excited because they had really cool neighbors. And so sure enough, right, dinner time came around and they walked over to the neighbor's house. And the neighbor was kind of just telling them all about the neighborhood. And Zach's mom was like, hey, is there anything we should know about the neighborhood? Because I don't know, maybe there's a really cool restaurant that no one really knows about, but is really good and it's kind of underground. Maybe there's really cool, maybe there's a really good park. I don't know if they had kids or something. Maybe there's kind of a sketchy part you want to stay away from. I don't know. There's maybe some things about the town that you just wouldn't know from a quick Google search. And the neighbor kind of looked at them and said, well, there's actually this woman, you might see her walking around and just don't make eye contact. Just kind of let her go about her business. And kind of Zach and his mom look at each other kind of a little bit what's going on here? I don't like this. This is a little weird. And then the neighbor's like, you know what? Don't even, you know what? That's nothing. It's nothing. Forget I said anything. Dude, whenever someone says, forget I said anything, that is the most ridiculous statement ever. Because they say something really interesting. They're like, oh, forget I said anything. Dude, I will not be able to forget that you said something of interest. Come on now. So anyways, they continue on having dinner, and it's a great rest of the dinner. And Zach and his mom are walking back over when it's to their house when it's done. And Zach says, that was really cool, but didn't you think that was weird when that guy started to talk about this woman that walks around the neighborhood and how we shouldn't make eye contact? And then kind of midway through his sentence, he said, you know what? Forget I said anything. That was weird, right? And Zach's mom was like, yeah, man, that's kind of strange. I'm not going to lie, but whatever. If it's really an issue, he probably would have said something. He's pretty cool. So anyways, days go on, probably about a week or so, and Zach is about to get into his car. So Zach has his keys. He's walking outside, And he's looking at his car. He's about to put his keys into his car when he sees in the reflection of like the car, right? There's a kind of a figure moving in the background. So Zach turns around, and sure enough, across the street, he sees this woman walking. And it's like this kind of like older woman, and she's kind of like waddling along, and she has these like big aviator sunglasses on. And that's when she stops walking, and she turns and she looks directly at him. And Zach is a little bit freaked out. He's not going to lie. He's a little bit freaked out at this moment. So he quickly turns back around to like put his keys into the car and be like, I'm not going to start anything. And that's when he notices in the reflection of the car that the little kind of like blob in the background is starting to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So he turns around and he looks, and sure enough, right, Karen is crossing the street. But she's not crossing the street like just to like cross the street. She was very intently coming right at him. She wasn't like, I don't know, crossing over, or wasn't like going to like the house next to him or before him. She was coming right at him. So Zach at this point knew that he probably couldn't get away with just putting his keys in the car and, running in, because she was closing in fast. Even though she was a bit of a shuffler and didn't move that quickly, I guess when the Karen wanted to strike, the Karen was going to strike. So sure enough, the Karen walks up to his lawn, and, Zach kind of like turns away from his car and looks at her and says, "Hello there, Obi-Wan Kenobi." No, I'm just kidding. She's like, "Hey, what's up?" And the Karen is like, "You don't live here." And Zach is like, "Well, no, my mom and I just moved in a couple weeks ago." She's like, "Nope. I know the owners of this house. They're trying to find someone to buy it, and you're squatting in here." If you don't know, squatting is basically when a house is in limbo, like no one's living in it, but someone will probably live in it at some point. People will kind of just break in and just live in the house without paying any rent or anything like that, or just without owning the house, just because, no one's living in there, and it is technically a crime. So sure enough, the Karen was accusing them of that. And Zach at this point was like, "Ma'am, no, this is my house, or this is my mom's house, and I'm living with her. Like, we're just not squatting. That's just not a thing." And she's like, No. I know the landlord, and I do not remember her telling me that she sold the house. So you must be squatting. You better get out of here. I'm giving you a countdown of 1 day for you and your little squatter buddies to get out of my neighborhood." And Zach is like, "Well, ma'am, I'm not going to get out of your neighborhood nor this house, because I live here, and my mom and I purchased this legally." And the Karen's like, "Nice try. Just know that I will get the authorities involved if you're not gone within 1 day." And Zach is like, "Okay, sure, do it." Real quick, comment Karen down below if you made it this far into the video. And if you want to support the channel, just sit down and binge watch a bunch of videos. It really does help me out. And let me know in the comment section what you're doing while you're watching my videos, like playing video games, going to sleep, whatever it is. I'm going to be pretty active today in the comments, so I'll try and heart and just say thank you. I appreciate you guys watching me, and just always, I really do. And I wish I could say it. I'm going to get back to the story. I don't want to drag this on, but I just want to say thank you. Like, genuinely, I'm very grateful. Anyways, let's get back to it. So sure enough, Zach is like, "Okay." And the Karen turns around and walks over to the other side and is like pouting the entire time. Like, it's very weird and surreal. So when Zach's mom gets back from work, Zach is like, "Yo," and his mom's like, "What?" And Zach's like, "Dude, so like how we were over at that house?" And, his mom's like, "Yeah, like we're just over there a couple weeks ago. You know how they're talking about that lady that we shouldn't make eye contact with?" And Zach's mom's like, "Yes." And Zach's like, "Dude, it was crazy. I was just looking at my car and I saw something in the reflection, and then a lady just came over and she accused me of squatting." And his mom's like, "Dude, what?" And Zach's like, "Yeah, she said I had 1 day to get out, or she's getting the authorities involved." And Zach's mom's like, "Well, we're not going anywhere because we legally purchased this house. Like, that's ridiculous." And Zach's like, "Dude, that's what I was saying," but she didn't take no for an answer. So sure enough, right, a day goes by, and the next day, Zach is at home, and it's a Saturday, so his mom is also at home. And that's when they get a knock on the door. And, Zach's mom approaches, and Zach is like in the other room, so he actually comes over just to see. And when Zach is coming around the corner, he sees his mom talking to two police officers. Basically, the police officers say, "Hey, we got a route. We got a call that like you guys were squatting here. We don't necessarily believe it, but we have to come. Like we're forced to come here. Is there any way look, ma'am, it looks like you're living here. We can just go about our day." And Zach's mom's like, no. Actually, I just want to get this on the record so that she can't pull anything later on. I have the deed to my house on the phone. I think you can have a deed on your phone. She had some kind of verification / proof on her phone. Zach's mom pulls out her phone, shows both the officers. The officer's like, "Ma'am, so sorry about this. Like, we had to come. The lady who called you in has always been kind of trouble in the neighborhood, but we can't rule out everything she's said so far because she once actually got someone. So it's, we're sorry, ma'am. Like, have a nice day. We won't ever see you again for something like this." And sure enough, right, Zach and his mom were like, "Oh, okay, great. This is great news. We're done." Oh, no. No. Incorrect. False. That is a false narrative. That is fake news. They were not done. In fact, that was only step one of Karen's evil plan. The Karen's evil plan only got more evil after this point. So sure enough, right, the next day comes around and Zach is back outside in his car. And once again, he's walking out to his car, and that's when he he catches something in the corner of his eye. At the end of his driveway, the Karen is standing there with her hands on her hips, and the black aviator sunglasses, once again, were piercing into his soul. So he turns around and looks at her, and they basically have a staring contest for what's probably like 5 seconds. But in Zach, it just felt like to Zach like minutes, like hours, like days, millenniums, like infinite universes amounts of time. Like it was just so long. So Zach eventually is like, "Can I help you?" And the Karen says, "So you tricked the authorities. And Zach's like, "Come again?" And she's like, "I know you're squatting. I know that you're a big squatter and you don't actually own the rights to be here. But somehow you fooled the incompetent authorities. The police department over here are idiots, I'm telling you." And Zach's like, "Ma'am, come on. You called the police on us, which was ridiculous, and we showed them proof that we own the house. What more do you want?" And she's like, "I want to be satisfied, and I'm not satisfied until you guys are gone for squatting." And Zach's like, "Ma'am, do you think maybe it is a possibility that we are in fact not squatting?" And she's like, "No." So Zach tries to reason with the Karen, but the Karen is basically saying, "I believe that you're squatting and I'm going to prove it one way or another." So anyways, Zach finds this kind of weird, a little bit ominous, but I don't know. It's some senile old woman. Like, honestly, what could she really do? What could she do? Anyways, so sure enough, right, the next day, or not the next day, right, it's getting close to bedtime. Zach and his mom, they're watching some TV show, and eventually it's getting late, and they're both like, "All right, let's go to bed." So, Zach goes into his room, he's on his phone, and he's watching a video. And he hears kind of like this weird banging noise. And he's thinking, okay, did that come from my video that I was just watching, or is that actually something? And then once again, this weird banging noise. And he's like, that can't be, that has to be downstairs. So Zach gets up, and that's when he starts hearing like these footstep noises. He's like, "Oh my God, is someone in my house?" And at first he's like, "Okay, maybe my mom is making like a racket down there." So he starts to walk over to his mom's room because it's a 2-story house, and they both have rooms on the second floor, and the noises were coming from the first floor. So he walks over and he opens his mom's room. She's fast asleep. This is when Zach's heart starts to race a little bit, because he knows that those are sounds of people or some person in his house. And he was kind of thinking it was his mom until he went and saw that, in fact, it was not his mom. His mom was sound asleep. So now he's really scared. So he wakes up his mom. He's like, Mom, 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 Mom. She's like, what? What? He's like, shh, quiet. His mom's like, Zach, what is going on? And Zach's like, listen. And at this point, like, Zach's mom's like, what? And Zach's like, Mom, I think someone's downstairs. And Zach's mom starts to come to it a little bit and is like, oh my God, like, hand me my phone. So they grab the phone. Zach's mom dials 911. She's like, no, this might be an emergency. I think someone's in our house. I don't know if they're armed. I don't know if they're like just totally, I don't know if they're lost or somehow gone to our, I don't know, but someone's in our house. And they're like, all right, we'll be there and whatever. So sure enough, right, Zach and his mom are like, what do we do? And Zach's like, I want to go see who it is. And Zach's mom's like, no, that's ridiculous. Barricade the door. So sure enough, Zach and his mom close their door and start moving furniture, right? And it's a pretty well barricaded door. And all they do now is kind of like Zach and his mom are kind of looking at the door. Then they're looking outside their window to check when the cops are going to call. Then they're looking at the door. And then they're looking outside the window again. And eventually, right, they see kind of like this blue flashing light. So they're like, okay, finally, great. The cops are finally here. And so sure enough, cops come and they open and they're like open up, please. Eventually they break through the door and then they hear this commotion happening downstairs, like this kind of like woman kind of yelling or whatever. The cops being like, freeze, whatever, right? A lot of commotion, a lot of yelling. And Zach's like, that sounds like an old woman. And Zach's mom's like, quiet, Zach. Let the men do what they're supposed to do. Zach's like, okay, Mom. She's like, anyways, right? So eventually, they stop hearing as much commotion. They hear steps coming up the stairs, like bum, 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 bum. And sure enough, right, then they hear a knock on the door. And they're like, all right, ma'am, like, it's us. We have whoever's in your house. Like, you can come out now. And Zach's mom, like, 1 second, I want to check through the peephole. And the police officer's like, that's totally fine. So Zach's mom goes up to the keyhole, puts her eye in it, and kind of looks through. And sure enough, it is the police officer. So then Zach and Zach's mom start moving the furniture and blockade until they can eventually get out of the door. So they open it. And Zach's mom's like, officer, like, I don't know what happened. Is everything okay? And the officer's like, yep, everything's fine. Like, you can come down with us now. Like, it's totally safe or whatever. And so sure enough, they walk down the stairs. And the other officer has this older woman in handcuffs. And Zach is like, oh my God. And he pulls his mom aside. He said, this is the Karen. This is the Karen I was telling you about. The one who said that, like, we're squatting and that the police are idiots and that she's going to prove it one way or another. And Zach's mom's like, oh my God. So sure enough, they get down there. And the Karen is screaming like, these people are squatting here. They don't own this house. They're a danger to the neighborhood. You guys are just too incompetent and foolish to understand. And the police officer's like, ma'am, quiet down, please. And so eventually Zach kind of like speaks up and he says, hey, I know this woman. And they're like, yeah, we know this woman too. And he's like, no, like this woman, she's accused of squatting and sent you guys here. It was the same police officers. And they say, yep, we remember. And Zach's like, and then she said later on that you guys like were idiots and didn't understand that she was going to prove it herself. So I guess this is her proving it herself. And the two police officers like look at each other and then look at the old woman. And the Karen is like, officers, this is a perfect time for you to arrest them immediately for squatting. Officers, you don't understand. This is the perfect time for you to arrest them. Officers, arrest them immediately. What are you doing? Why are they still standing there? Arrest these hooligans who are squatting in the neighborhood. And they're like, ma'am, we saw their like documents. They're legit. And the woman's like, no, my friend is the realtor around here. She would have told me. And the officers are like, ma'am, what do you think the odds are that either they're really squatting and they were able to fake documents on a whim and show it to us and have completely moved in and faked bank documents and got a fake loan, or your friend, the realtor, doesn't update you with her life every 5 seconds. This house was sold kind of recently. When's the last time you talked to her? And the Karen's like, well, it's been about 2 years, but she totally would have told me. At this point, Zach is like, bruh, wait, what? This whole suspicion was because your friend who owns this house, was going to tell you, and you haven't talked to her in 2 years? And the Karen's like, well, 1.5. No, not even 2, like 1.5. We're still really close. And Zach is like, oh my God, dude. So the police are like, all right, what do we want to do here? And Zach's mom stands up, looks at the Karen and says, look, we are not squatting, and I'm not going to press charges, but if you ever even step foot on this house again, charges will be pressed. Because what you can do is, like, you don't have to press charges, but within the statute of limitations, you can always press those charges again. Like, you can, like, bring up the case again, I think. And that's basically, and the police officers are like, yeah, like, ma'am, don't come back around here. We won't have any problems. And she's like, fine, whatever. Because I think eventually Karen got it through kind of her very incredibly dense skull that maybe her friend just didn't tell her, and that these people are not squatting. So yeah, eventually Zach and Zach's mom, they go back in, and they try to go back to bed, but it's pretty hard. And a couple weeks later, they're invited back over to their neighbors, or actually they invite their neighbors. That's what it was. They invite their neighbors over because they fully moved in and kind of repay the favor. And the neighbors are like, so, any interesting stories you have since you've moved in? And Zach and Zach's moms just look at each other, and they turn. Zach's like, yeah, actually,
click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.
How's it going, everyone? I hope you're having a great day, because today we have one of the craziest Karen stories I have ever received, and I know you will enjoy it. So sit back, relax, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's just get right into it. We're going to call today's subscriber who submitted this story Max. So anyways, Max was in the 5th grade, and at Max's school, the 5th grade play was like the biggest deal ever, at least, to the 4th graders, the 3rd graders. It was so cool every single year. The theater director, because like the first year that the kids in that school got theater, since the school went through 8th grade, was 5th grade. And the theater director liked starting the school year off with a bang, so they always had the coolest 5th grade play ever, and all the younger kids were so excited to see it. It was also a pretty big deal in the 5th grade, that play was as well, and also who got what part, and who got the lead, who got whatever, even though it was kind of a big deal. I mean, kids wouldn't like fight over it that crazy or anything. If anything, it was a big deal for the parents, or at least the parents who cared a little bit too much. So let's just skip to the first day of auditions. So the play that they were doing was Cinderella. For, the one person who doesn't know the fairy tale Cinderella, basically there's this girl who is a handmaid, or is basically cleans the house of another of like these 3 evil stepsisters or something. Or I think that they're related to, yeah, so she is basically forced to be like cleaning up the house and all in rags or whatever. And the super handsome Prince Charming, sees, Cinderella at the ball okay, this is gonna sound weird, after a magic pumpkin gets her there. But basically, right, the magic wears off at 12, so she runs away from him, but she leaves her slipper. And, the Prince Charming's trying to figure out who the girl is by her shoe size, because no one else has a size 6, Jeremy. Of course not. But anyways, right, eventually, the stepsisters, the evil ones who are apparently very ugly, unlucky, they try and shove their foot in there, and they, mutilate it to get in there. It's disgusting. Fairy tales are disgusting. But anyways, eventually Cinderella's foot gets in there. So that is the play. That's the synopsis. And the really big role is Cinderella and also Prince Charming. There's a ton of roles, right? There's 30, 35, 40 kids in the 5th grade, so they have to have a lot of roles. Not everyone can be pulling the curtain. It can't be 6 people on stage and 15 people pulling one curtain, 13 pulling the other, 15 handing out the pamphlets. There were some kids who didn't really want to be on stage, but the majority, they were given roles if they wanted to. But the really big role that people were auditioning for was both Cinderella and Prince Charming. And Max was a bit of a theater kid himself. It was kind of his forte, and not a lot of the other guys were really gunning for Prince Charming, so Max more or less got that role in the bag. However, the role of Cinderella was much more contested amongst the girls, because they were thinking oh my God, Cinderella, that's me, right? So there were plenty of them, and one of them, we're just going to call her Ava. And this girl, Ava, was actually quite talented, was a pretty good actor, at least for being a 5th grader, she's a pretty good actor. And there was another girl named Audrey who also really wanted the role. And she just wasn't as good. I mean, look, dude, they're in 5th grade. Life can change. But at this moment, it was pretty clear that the role was, like, set for Ava. So Max and Ava were actually kind of friends, and they were talking at lunch a few days before the audition. And, you know, Max and Ava were sitting there, and Ava's like, hey, like, congrats on basically having the role of Prince Charming. Max responds, hey, like, congrats on almost having the role of Cinderella. And Ava's like, well, it's less sure. Like, look, your spot isn't that contested. There isn't really even a boy in our grade who wants that role besides you, so that's basically set. While I think that I'm pretty good for the role of Cinderella, you know, Audrey really wants it as well. And Max is like, Ava, you're a better actor, you're a better fit, you know, and the person running the play, he knows this. Like, you know, I'm being an idiot. What's that called? I guess play director. Yeah, the play director obviously knows you're better. But Ava's like, I don't know. Audrey really wants it. And you know how Audrey's mom gets when she doesn't get something that she wants. So yes, officially Karen reveal time. So Audrey had a mom who was notoriously a Karen. She was notoriously a Karen because in 2nd grade, when Audrey didn't get like a check plus on her like project that her and her mom worked on, the Karen, Audrey's mom, aka the Karen, I'm just gonna call her the Karen from here on out. The Karen stormed into class and demanded that like Audrey get a check plus, and that's when the teacher had to reveal to the Karen that there was no check plus. It was literally check minus, check, and check plus. And Audrey's Karen mom had to like awkwardly walk out of there. And ever since, Audrey's mom has just garnered this reputation of being a massive Karen, which she is, and which you shall see is, she does something crazy, so you don't want to miss it. But anyways, so Audrey and Ava, you know, are, you know, they're not really friends. They're not really not friends. They're okay, but they immediately stop talking to each other, right? And Max observes this. And, you know, he goes up to Ava. He's like, oh, you and Audrey are kind of cold to each other. Because while they weren't friends before, they were extra cold to each other. They wouldn't even look in each other's eyes. And Ava's like, dude, it's not really me. I swear it's like her. Like, she's like, I try and make eye contact. I try and wave. But she's just like staring right past me. It's weird. And, you know, Max is like, all right, well, I mean, it's probably just nerves because she knows that you're her biggest competition. Let's fast forward to the day of the audition. So basically, right, one afternoon is set aside time for the audition for the play. It's a really low stakes, dude. It's 5th grade. Who even cares? But anyways, right? Dude, 5th grade play is important. Fine, I'm sorry. My fault. But anyways, they all get there, right? And they get there kind of like 5 or so minutes early, or at least the ones that are really trying to gun for certain roles. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, I'm not going to show up 5 minutes early to try and be bush number 7. Like, that's fine. I can just, if I have to be tree number 6, whatever. But anyways, right? So Max is there, Ava's there, and that's when Max and Ava are talking, and Max is like, are you feeling nervous? And Ava's like, yeah, I actually am. Max is like, dude, you totally got this. And that's when they see Audrey coming. But this is when they're like, oh my God, because it's not just Audrey showing up, dude. It's Audrey and the Karen, aka her mom. So Audrey and the Karen appear, and Max is like, dude, what? Why's her mom here? And Ava's like, I don't know, but why is her mom here? So anyways, right? Because this was ridiculous. I mean, this isn't like a thing that no one goes and sees the audition for the 5th grade play. You either see the 5th grade play, and maybe if you're a super mega fan who was sitting around like waiting for tickets for 10 days, like you're waiting for like the Star Wars movie to come out or something like that, maybe you see the dress rehearsal. You don't come for the auditions, bro. No one does that. But anyways, right, they get in there, all the kids are in there, the play director is waiting, and, you know, Audrey's mom, aka the Karen, finds a folding chair and sits it down. And the play director kind of looks at her and like, hello, ma'am. Didn't really expect any guests, but you're fine watching. And the Karen mom literally just folds her arm in response. Like, she folds her arms and goes, Like, that's literally it. She just doesn't say anything. And play director's like, okay, it's a little weird. But anyways, guys, welcome to the play for Rapunzel. Wait, no, that's the wrong one. But welcome to the play for Cinderella. My fault, boys. But anyways, and like today we'll be doing auditions. Like, if you don't get the part you want, like, don't feel too bad about it. I will make sure that you will have a part that you will have a lot of fun with. I guarantee that. Does anyone want to like go for audition for backstage or more of a managerial role than actually, you know, participating in the play? bunch of people raise their hands. He's like, all right, you guys wait outside for about like 10 minutes or so. You can go to recess or whatever. The rest of you guys, I'm assuming you are here to try out for one of the main roles in the play. So sure enough, Max goes up there for one. It's called like the attractive man or whatever in Cinderella. Dude, I don't watch these things. I don't know the name. And he gets it, or Prince Charming, I think was his name, or something stupid like that. Max immediately gets it. No one else even shows up, but play director was like, hey, can you just run some lines? Max does a great job. And then it's like, all right, so now we're doing one more for Cinderella. Anyone for Cinderella? So Audrey, Ava, and some other girls show up. The other girls actually, some of them drop out immediately. They're like, I don't really care that much. I'll be one of the evil stepsisters. I'll be someone in the background. I don't really care. That's when Ava goes up there. Ava's Max's friend, just to remind you. And Ava does a really good, a really good job. She obviously is one of the best ones for it. And Max is watching the Karen, who is sitting in the audience and has her arms folded and is just like, has these glasses on. But like, Max could tell that she was like glaring at Ava because that was her daughter's competition. And she knew that, dude. And that's when Audrey went up there. And even before Audrey did anything, the Karen started going like, yes, Audrey, let's go. So good. And Audrey's like, Mom, please. And then the play director's like, all right, silence from the audience. Audrey, hear the lines, say them, like audition, whatever, right? And Audrey says them. She does a good job, but in Max's opinion, it's almost very clear that Ava's got the part, right? And afterwards, the playwriter or the play director is like, all right, guys, thank you so much. I have a lot to think about, so the parts will be posted on the bulletin board tomorrow. Remember, if you don't get exactly what you want, these are pretty much my final decisions. I can't really move them around. Unless you want to drop out of a part, then just please let me know about that. Otherwise, you're free to go. And so Max and Ava are walking out, and that's when Max turns around and sees the Karen go up to the play director and is talking to him, and the play director is talking back, and they're kind of the Karen has her arms folded and is probably saying, my child deserves to get the part of Cinderella. You were so clear. Why do you even have to think about it? It was so obvious. Real quick, if you made it this far into the video, comment Karen down below. I'm going to try and heart as many comments as possible that say that. I just like seeing the names and faces of people who support the channel by watching at least this far into the video, and I just want to say I do appreciate you. And if you want to support the channel more, which I've been seeing you guys been doing, and thank you so much for it, binge watch these videos, aka that means sitting down or doing something and watching 5, 6, 7, 10 plus videos in a single sitting, which is insane. It boosts the channel even more than you can ever imagine. And if you do so, please let me know what you're doing while you're doing it, or which binge video number you are on, and I'll even shout some people out like I'm doing right now in the comment section that tell me. Anyways, let's get back to the story. Craziest Karen story I think I've ever received. So the next day comes around, and Max, Ava, and everyone are just feverishly waiting for the auditions, but basically the who got what part in the play to be posted on the bulletin board. So they're all kind of just waiting around, and when they're in class, immediately as class ends, they rush over to the bulletin board, and nothing is there, and class ends, and then they rush over again, and nothing is there, and then they're at lunch, but they keep checking again and again until immediately, when they're sitting down to lunch, they hear some kid run in and said, it's been posted, and then Max, Ava, Audrey, and everyone else gets out of their seats and immediately runs over, gets to the bulletin board, and Max starts scanning, right? Max sees, okay, Max is like, all right, I got the part, awesome, and he looks to see who got Cinderella, and he sees it, and it was Ava. Ava got the part. And he looks down, and Audrey was one of the bridesmaids or whatever, the evil sisters or something like that. And Max looks over, and Audrey just is runs away from the bulletin board into the bathroom. Drama happens, man. It's 5th grade, and it's stuff like this happens. And Ava's like, oh, I feel bad. And Max is like, no, you got the part. You both competed, and one of you won fair and square. That's totally fine. And some people might be thinking that this is the end of the saga. Ho, you are so wrong. Because the Karen is very upset that her little baby Audrey did not get the part that she wanted. So you know what will happen? The Karen is about to strike back. The Karen is about to inflict maximum damage. But that's coming up. Stick around. So anyways, right, they're preparing for the next couple weeks, or actually about a month. they're preparing to show the play, so they're practicing their lines. They're doing like getting their people that, assigned to make the sets or whatever, that like more the artistically inclined people that weren't a big fan of acting were totally on top of that stuff. They were able to tweak the scripts that they wanted to. They were given a very basic, Cinderella script, but they wanted to add a little bit or change some lines. The play director was pretty cool and gave them, kind of artistic freedom or creative freedom in that sense. And yeah, so the next couple weeks go by, and it's the dress rehearsal. It seems like Audrey is pretty happy with her role. She's really kind of embraced being the evil stepsister, and she's having a lot of fun with it. And while Audrey was pretty upset at first that she didn't get the role that she wanted, her and Ava became pretty good friends. And kind of throughout, and or at least maybe not pretty good friends, but they were cool. They would talk during breaks or whatever. They would have good interactions between each other. They had great chemistry, on stage. But who was not cool with all of this? Who was very, 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 very upset? The Karen. Audrey's mom, the Karen, was not having a second of this. She was not having any of this at all. So sure enough, right, the day of the dress rehearsal comes. And it goes super smoothly. It is, everything's totally fine. Some parents are allowed to come and see it if they really want to. However, they're encouraged to see the main premiere instead, but, they can do whatever they want. So some parents come because, like, maybe they can't make it tomorrow and they feel bad, so they want to at least see the dress rehearsal. Some parents are just so excited to see their kids perform that they come today and tomorrow. And Max was almost certain that the Karen was going to appear, was going to come, right? That she was going to show up because she showed up to the auditions. Why wouldn't she show up to the dress rehearsal too? But the Karen was nowhere to be seen. Max either assumed that, the Karen was like, well, I'm going to see the thing tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. Maybe the Karen had something to do, but he just felt weird about it. There was just something strange and something off. And also Audrey was just seeming a little weird, and everyone just chalked it up to, stage fright or whatever, or butterflies about the real performance tomorrow. But Ava comes up to Max, and Ava's like, hey, so I was just talking with Audrey, and she's being very weird. And Max is like, what do you mean Audrey's being very weird? And Ava's like, she was saying something about, how her mom was getting really upset or something, and how she's afraid her mom's going to say something at tomorrow's performance, how she really wanted her to be, Cinderella. And Ava went on to say Audrey didn't even really care. She didn't even really care about being Cinderella, but apparently her mom was Cinderella in her play, so the Karen wanted her daughter to also be Cinderella, and it was like, that's why Audrey wanted it so bad. She didn't actually want the role. She didn't care. She could be behind the scenes or tree number 7 if she wanted. And that's probably why she took it so well when she didn't get it. Immediately after, she was upset because she's like, oh my God, what's my mom going to think about this? And, Ava's like, I think Audrey's just over-exaggerating, but I guess we'll see tomorrow. And yes, they did see tomorrow because it gets a little wild. Stick around. Anyways, it's tomorrow. It's the big day. It's the day of the big show. And sure enough, right, everyone is there. The first grade, the second grade, the third grade, the fourth grade, it is the big moment. All the parents are there. Even some of the older kids are kind of lurking in the back, being like, I remember when I did this. Look at them, so young. I mean, what are they, 12? I mean, I'm a whole 13 right now. Whatever, right? I don't know how old you are in 5th grade. But sure enough, they're all behind stage. And, Max, Ava, Audrey are standing there. They've kind of like created a little bit of a group because they're friends now. And Max is like, all right, it's the big deal. It's time. This is it, baby. Let's go. And they're all kind of getting hyped. They're all getting excited. And, they're all behind stage. And the play director goes out there and is like, hey, everyone, I'd like you to welcome to the 10th, annual 5th grade play. And everyone's like, oh, whatever, clapping and sure ensues or whatever. And so sure enough, right, the play director's like, all right, I'm going to ask that all cell phones be set to silent. If you're going to record, make sure the flash isn't on, and let's begin. And sure enough, the curtain draws, and it's the opening scene or whatever. It's the 3 evil stepsisters or something. And that's when Ava and Max are behind the scenes. Max doesn't come out for a second, but Ava is about to come out to wash the dishes or something, whatever Cinderella does in the movie. And this is where things get really, really bad. And you're not even going to believe what's about to happen. So Ava walks out there, and before she can say a single line, you hear a yell from the crowd, "Stop!" stop the production! Stop the production! And you see someone standing up, waving both of their hands. So everyone obviously stops. Even the piano guy doing the music in the background is like, what? And that's when Max peeks his head out from behind the curtain. You know who he sees standing up, waving her hands? Yes, it is the Karen. She striked back. And anyways, the Karen waddles up to the front, like moves past people, walks down the center aisle, and is like, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. And starts stomping around. Bump, 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 bump. She's like, stop the production. This is a fraudulent production. This is bad. No, stop. And she literally walks up on stage and like in front of everyone. And at this point, right, Max is just watching the whole thing with his jaw absolutely slacked. His jaw is dropped. He's like, what on earth is going on? And the Karen is on stage, points at Ava, right, and says, she stole the part of Cinderella from my daughter. I was Cinderella when I was in 5th grade, and she needs to be Cinderella too. And she said, I was there at the audition, Audrey, my daughter. And Audrey's just like has her hands in her, like her face in her hands, like, oh my God, Mom, this is literally the worst thing ever. And she's like, I was there at the audition, and my daughter, Audrey, was 100 times better than this fraud. And points at Ava, right? And Ava starts to tear up because you got this like big old woman on stage yelling at you, calling you a fraud, right? Basically saying that you stole the audition from her daughter. And the Karen goes on to say, I don't know what, this daughter bribed you with, and pointed at the stage conductor. I don't know if her mother paid you off or something, but it was ridiculous. It was an outrage, and I can't let this stand. I can't let this stand anymore. I've been sitting on the sidelines for too long, and now I will make my stance. I will not let a fraudulent play go on any longer. And Max in his head's like, bro, this is a 5th grade play. This is not Broadway. Sit down. Like, this is crazy. And at this point, right, the stage director is, or not the stage director, but like the play director, who was in complete shock, kind of like gets back into it. He kind of shakes himself out of it and stands on stage and is like, ma'am, you are ruining a special night for all the kids out there and all the kids on stage and all the parents out there. This isn't about who is what or who does what. It's about, the play. It's about having fun. It was about the journey that we all took to get to this moment. Your daughter loves the role that she has. She was incredible in sculpting the role into what it is. It is more than what it was when I first started. It doesn't matter who your daughter is. It doesn't matter who you were before. He goes on. It's like he had this planned, bro. He has like a perfect monologue. I guess he had a crazy Karen monologue up his sleeve or something. And he's like, right now, right, the play has just started. At least let it go. At least let the play continue and allow everyone else to have fun. And allow your daughter to enjoy herself in the role. And the Karen stops for a second. And everyone, including Max, is like, oh my God, the play director got to the Karen, right? We're going to be able to go on with the play. Like, yes, they'll have to probably restart it. It's going to have an awkward pause, but we're going to be allowed to go on with the play. He finally got to her. He got through her thick skull, but you know what I mean. But the Karen, you could just see that there was a change in her eyes. And she's like, no, I will not let this happen. This is outrageous. And that's when the Karen is like, if you're going to boot me off, I'm not going to let this play happen today or tomorrow or ever. And that's when the Karen goes on a true rampage. So there was a bunch of like scenery and sets and stuff. And the Karen runs back there and starts punching and smashing and breaking over her knees and is like screaming the whole time. She's like, it's a starts breaking everything in sight, like breaks everything possible, right? And there's like everyone in the audience is talking. She's like going insane, and Audrey's like, Mom, stop! What's going on? And the Karen's like, I'm doing this for you. You should have been Cinderella. And Audrey's like, Mom, I don't care about being Cinderella. And the Karen's like, well, I do. And it goes, boom, 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 smash, boom, just breaks everything on set. And the Karen's like, try and have a play now. And the Karen starts to walk off stage. Everyone is like, boo. Everyone completely boos her. And she like walks back, throws two middle fingers up, is like, woo, woo, woo. Literally the worst person on planet Earth, right? So the curtains close, the play director goes and gathers everyone around. Audrey is like in complete tears, right? And the play director's like, Audrey, I'm so sorry. He said, you know what? The audience is here. We know our lines. Yes, we don't have like a third of the props we need, but we don't need them, right? We don't need the props. The play isn't over, guys. The play isn't over. And, you know, sure enough, he was able to rally them together. And so at this point, right, the Karen's being escorted out by security. And as the Karen's being walked out, right, the play director comes out and says, in 1 minute, the play will commence. And everyone's like, yeah! Like, everyone starts exploding. It's almost like, you know, in the last minute of some, like, football game or basketball game where the last point is scored, everyone freaks, like, completely flips out. Same reaction times two for the freaking 5th grade play. And the Karen starts screaming as she's being pulled out or whatever. And sure enough, they go ahead with the play, and it's a fantastic performance. And afterwards, like, Audrey starts going up to people, like, and it's like, I'm so sorry. And Max and Ava are like, you can't control your mom. It's not your fault. And it ended up being a fantastic performance. And Audrey and Ava and Max continued on being parts of the play for the next 4 or so, whatever years, like 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, I guess 3 years or whatever. And yeah, all ends well, minus the
Click on the
Karen.
video
She
on
still
screen
sucks.
right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just click it. Do it.
Hey, this is Connor again. Just want to say thank you so much for watching the Karen movie, the first one I'm going to do. Hopefully I'll do another one. By the way, if you made it this far into the video, it's like an hour into it. That means you watched the entire thing. And most people aren't going to do it. So I have a very, very secret word for you to comment down below. I want you to comment door down below. That used to be the secret word that we always used. That was the secret word that we used back in like 2020 when we just started the channel. So just for a little good old time's sake, if you made it this far into the video, which is like an hour in, comment door. And if I see comments saying door, I will be like super appreciative, and I'll see your profile pic and I'll be like, wow, this person is cool. Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. If you want to watch another video, I would appreciate it. But if you watched an hour of my content, that's a big deal. So thank you either way. See you in the next one. Peace.